Good morning. Good morning. Oh, hang on a sec. What's that all doing? Stop that. Monday morning. The gremlins are here. Good morning, everyone. How the devil are you doing this fine day? So there I was, Saturday morning. Well, there we were, should I say. Saturday morning, having an idle chat amongst ourselves, covering topics like physical health in the demolition industry and the impending big football match. All seemed largely right with the world. And then someone took a pot shot at former President Donald Trump. There was a changing of the guard at Wimbledon as Novak Djokovic was blown off the court by young Carlos Alcaraz, and England was overrun by the Spanish Armada in Berlin. Seems like I looked away for 1 minute and the world just spun off its axis. I mean, in truth, the Alcaraz victory at Wimbledon was merely a repeat of last year's final, was probably not a great surprise. Also not surprising, the England team barely got out of first gear throughout the Euros and were ultimately beaten by the best team in the tournament. The one that did surprise me, however, was the Donald Trump incident. For one thing, as a Brit, thankfully unusual for people to shoot at our politicians, but for another, I thought it was Trump's side that had all the guns. Now, personally speaking, I don't think that Donald Trump was just a terrible president. I think he's a truly awful human being as well. But that doesn't condone politically motivated violence. How is it that in a supposedly enlightened world, we still have such division and tribalism? Why do our differences always seem to end in violence? Why can't we all just get along? Now, I was going to leave the intro at that today, but because we've got quite a lot to get through and we've got some fantastic films to show you. But I can't lie. This has been playing on my head in my head overnight. So, very quickly, as we all know, England lost to Spain in the Euro finals in Berlin last night. Despite all the talent within the England squad, despite how well they've performed elsewhere, they failed to rise to the challenge. Is that not the perfect metaphor for the UK demolition and construction industry? So many talented people that have excelled elsewhere, but who are now. Let me do that again. So many talented people that have excelled elsewhere, but who are now being told to do something that goes against everything that made them great in the first place. How many demolition and construction workers have been robbed of their creativity and their ability to think outside the box? How many have been brilliant doing the job for which they were trained, but who are now doing something entirely different? And is it a coincidence that while some talent excels under a manager like Pep Guardiola, they struggle under one like Gareth Southgate? In an industry filled with managers, let's hope you get a Pep and not a Gareth. Just one final thing this morning. I'm going to pop over to the chat in a second because that's already busy. It is a Monday, so that means my latest column has dropped. If I get to the right place, I can tell you exactly what it is. There we are. It's a story that'll be familiar to most of you if you're here regularly. It's all about the speed or the lack thereof of accident investigations here in the UK in comparison to other parts of the world. I've already posted a link to it on our WhatsApp page, so you may have seen it already. If not, you can see the link in the chat now. Let's have a look. Let me go back to the beginning of the chat. I know Gary Muirhead was hot off the mark because he's at home. He's at home. Thankfully, he's at home not because of illness, but because it is, what is it? Glasgow Fair Monday. Holiday in the house, watching the show. Well, watching on YouTube, unusually, which is fantastic stuff. Let's have a look. We've also already had some guesses on our mystery machine that I haven't even shown you. There's Gary's attempt. The O&K RHPMS. No, not one of those. I think Dan Cullen had a bit of a stab as well. Somewhere there's Steve Williamson joining us. I'm sure I saw somebody else have a stab. Steve says, good game last night. Fairly sure his tongue is pressed quite firmly into his cheek. The best team won. There is no argument, is there? The best team won. The best team in the tournament, and certainly the best team last night, can have no argument about that. I'm sorry, but England were way out of their league. Yeah, they were. They shouldn't have been. You know, on paper, and I realise football's not played on paper. On paper, we were the match of Spain last night. But unfortunately, we had an overly defensive manager who didn't have a defence good enough to keep the Spaniards out. Simple as that. Jim Turner's here. Mark Whiting is here. Good morning to Chris Ford as well. Looks like everyone missed their targets yesterday. Ain't that the truth? Spain were way too technical and fast-paced, little touches in the box. England didn't have a chance. Sad, but true. Jim Turner is having a stab at the mystery machine that you haven't even seen yet. It's not right. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, gang. Good morning, another fine day in Gotham City. Batman can take the day off then. JCB 3CX Sightmaster Pro, it's not one of those either. I will get to the Mystery Machine in just a moment. Ken Hatter has just joined us as well. Scotland beat Spain 2-0. Just saying. In what decade was that, Steve? Doesn't feel like it was that recent. Not far from me then, as Gotham is only a few miles out of North. Is there a Gotham City in the UK? Is there a Gotham in the UK? I'm not entirely sure it's a city. I'm sure if it was a city, I probably would have seen it. Steve says Monster Jam was awesome to see. Funny you should mention that, because we'll be getting to that in just a moment. So without further ado, how about we roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road just as soon as I've taken that away, because we need to keep the screen nice and tidy, don't we? So, intro. So you live and learn, don't you? Apparently, the Gotham in the UK, or the one near Nottingham, it's not pronounced Gotham, it's pronounced goat ham. Anybody else fancy a goat ham sandwich right about now? I do. Yes, you've got your question of the day, so let's crack on. It is Monday, the 15th of July. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the walrus of demolition. In today's show, the JCB Digatron takes off. Dieci goes hybrid. AMI facilitates super fast wheel loader attachment changes. And we're talking machine autonomy with Volvo. Plus, we're heading back to Hillhead for yet another new product from Sunward. Not the one we featured before. Don't calm down. It's not one we featured before. But before we get to all of that, there is a small matter of today's mystery machine. And none of you are close so far, which is not surprising because I haven't shown it to you yet. Back after this. Right. Those of you that have them to hand, break out your spectacles because you need to identify this. Yes. Anybody got any suggestions on that? Love to hear them. I'm going to take it away for just a moment. But yes, we'll be keeping that going all the way through the show. Our question of the day, which I'll come back to in just a moment, is how... I tell you what, let me remind you of it very quickly, just so that we can get things back in order. Yeah, our question of today comes once again from the ever-inquisitive Mr. Gary Muirhead, and his question is this. You've just seen it on the screen. What is the greatest compliment you've ever been paid? And we've already had an answer from Jim Turner, who says, hang on a minute, what compliments? I'm sure you've had compliments in your time. Do you know, my greatest compliment was actually a silent one. So, some few years ago, I went off I was due at a meeting. It was wintertime. I was due at a meeting in London. So there I was suited and booted. Nice bit of tweed going on, nice knitted tie, looking pretty damn dapper. Hat tilted just so, looking the bee's knees. And a guy got on the underground train that I was on, also wearing a tweed suit, also wearing brogues like I was, also wearing a hat. And he was probably half my age. And he looked me up and he looked me down and he just went, all he did, like, yes, well done. We shared a moment. We shared a moment of mutual appreciation. But what is the greatest compliment you've ever been paid? Question today. Crystal says he was told that he was what is the rhyming slang for that? A Barclay Hunt, I think, is one of those, but a nice one. Mick Norton says, enjoyed your piece on the apparent disconnect with the UK and Swedish accident regarding outcomes of investigations into construction fatalities. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Norton. Much appreciated. Like the hat. Yeah, it's back to the Bobcat hat seem to be on circulation at the moment. So, Mystery Machine. Let's go back to the Mystery Machine. We've got Chris Ford. He's going for a Cat 777. It is not. Dan Cullen going for a Cat 736 Rigid. It's not one of those. Jim Turner has gone for the Liebherr dump truck. Not one of those. Is it a Cat 793F Rigid truck? It is not. And apparently, the rhyming slang that I was looking for in association with Chris Ford, I don't know quite how Callum McIntosh is up to date, bearing in mind he's a Scot. Don't know how he's up to date with rhyming slang, but he suggests James Blunt. What a James Blunt. Brilliant. Thank you, Callum, and good morning to you, sir. No, nobody's got the Mystery Machine yet, so here's a little bit more. I can tell you, obviously, you've all figured out what type of machine it is, but what I'm looking for is actually make and model. If anybody's got any thoughts on that, please let us know in the chat. And we'll be right back after this. So, while the England football team failed to take off at a football stadium in Berlin, an English equipment manufacturer saw its latest invention take off at the London Stadium, home of the mighty West Ham. Here we go.
Digatron! Turn it on! And dig it up! Dig it!
The Digatron has its own song. Who knew? Who knew? Good news is it's got its own song. The bad news, it sounded a lot like Kid Rock. And nobody, let's be honest, nobody wants to sound like Kid Rock. Steve Williamson says, beast. Dan Cullen says, that's bloody crazy. Wow. That bit, did you see the bit where it almost landed on its side? And just put enough gas through one of the front wheels to spin it back up on its stuff? Yeah, amazing stuff. Chris Ford is going for a Clockham 414 dumper. What on earth is a 414 dumper? That makes me want to buy a bullhead or a lunchbox again. How does the engine work still at that angle? I have no idea. I've no idea. Do you know? I've never actually been to a monster truck thing. Never watched it on the TV or anything like that. Not a petrol head in any way, shape, or form. I'm assuming it's a competition, right? You know, I'm sure there is some way of. What do they judge? Height of jump, artistic value. If anyone's got any details on how monster trucking works, love to hear from you. I'm going to go back to the mystery machine because we've had more guesses. Let's have a look. Gary Muirhead reckons it could be the 773. It is not. Mystery machine, that's the Clockham. Crystal, or even a Volvo 861. It's none of those things. It's not an XCMG XDR 100. Jim Turner says apparently monster trucks, it's a freestyle competition, so it is literally down to artistic value, is it? Yeah, I don't know. It just passes me by entirely. Should I show you a bit more of the mystery machine, because you're all on the right, I was going to say the right track, but you're all on the right truck. You're just not getting the right name and number. So that's what you've got to work with. There is our mystery machine as it stands right now. Any thoughts on that? I'd love to hear from you. And while you're thinking about it, I'm going to play something else like this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
We are 4.5 years into the life of the Breakfast Show. That is 754 consecutive shows. And I don't think we've ever once featured the telehandler brand Dieci. But now they've got a hybrid machine. Thought it was probably time to put that right. I think I'd like one of those just for the paint job. Fantastic stuff, Dieci. Just while that was playing, a little thing happened. We've just passed 117,000. 117,000 subscribers over on YouTube. Thanks, everyone. Steve says, don't see many of those. No, you certainly don't see them at exhibitions. Don't see them in the wild. I don't even know if there is a UK dealer for Dieci. If anybody knows any differently, I'd love to hear from you. Mystery Machine is quite clearly called. Oh, I'm going to go back to Dan Cullen, who says, great video. Totally agree. Love the music as well. Going back to the Mystery Machine, causing some consternation in the ranks. Gary Muirhead is going for a Cat 797F. It's not one of those, and I can tell you, just to narrow it down a little bit more, it's not a Cat of any description, so it's certainly not a Cat 452. And Chris Ford is going for the Komatsu 605-8. It is not, and I'll tell you now, it's not a Komatsu either. There you are. That's one of wheels that it rides on. If anybody's got any clues, please let us know. Please let us know. I'm just going to go back to the chat because Callum McIntosh says, Callum McIntosh says, Mick Norton, yes, I enjoyed that too on Demolition Insider. 7 months versus sometime between 8 years and infinity for us. Our Nordic friends are frequently streets ahead of us. They are. They are definitely streets ahead of us. Why is it? Why is it that we look at models, don't we? I don't mean supermodels. I mean, we look at, the way in which, for example, we look to the Netherlands on how they control recreational drug use and stuff like that. So we look to them. We might possibly even look to them on how they control prostitution and stuff like that. So we look to other countries. Why are we not looking to Sweden and thinking, how is it that they can investigate a fatal accident in 7 months while we're still 8.5 years into it? Don't know why that is. I'm not even sure this is a machine. Cam Beasley over on Instagram reckons our mystery machine could be a Goblechev H320A. It's definitely not one of those, mainly because I've never heard of it. Dan Cullen is going for an XCMG Rigid. It is not. I'll show it to you again. That's what it is. It would be wrong to say you're in the right ballpark, Dan, but you kind of are. You're not, but you are. Gary Muirhead is going for the Euclid R25. Euclid. The dump trucks that we knew and lost. Yes. Who remembers the Euclid and that really, really unpleasant shade of green? Does anybody remember that? There you are. There's Cam Beasley. I don't know how he's done. Oh, I see what he's done. He's over on Instagram and he's now leapt over to be part of the show here. Morning, Cam. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You're not right, but it's one hell of a guess. I need to go and look up a Goblechev. Sounds a bit Russian. I'm guessing it probably is, but it's not one of those. It is definitely not one of those. But keep the guesses coming in and I'll keep playing on. Ken Hatcher is going for an Evelyn Barford. Oh, Evelyn Barford. I did their PR for a while. It's not one of those. It's a bit too big for one of theirs. Chris Ford is going for the R100 from Volvo. No, it's not. I did the PR for Volvo, for Evelyn Barford rather, and I've driven one of those. It's neither of those. Mick Norton says, coincidentally, I've just been talking to a major card scheme, taking a major card scheme to task, rather, regarding the training and testing of passenger good hoists, where they appear to be happy that trainees and novices need only explain rather than demonstrate vital safety critical applications for working at height, escape procedures, and emergency descent. Now, this is most definitely not my area of expertise, but the comparison that we were drawing between the Swedish accident investigation and the one here in the UK, obviously we were drawing the comparison between that and DIDCOP. But the one that I think is probably more appropriate to compare is Redcar. So at Redcar, 2 men were killed in the most horrific circumstances. Basically, they were in a MUP, an aerial platform, explosion in a chimney, and they were basically caught in the blast. And I'll leave you to fill in the blanks because it's too early on a Monday morning to give you the real details. Now, one of those guys, I'm struggling to remember his name, can't remember his name, but one of the guys that was up in that man basket was a demolition man, and had been trained in the ways of demolition and everything else. The other guy, John Mackay, and I know we've had his widow Anne on the show on a number of occasions. He was a MUP operator, had no experience in demolition, had no experience of working over chimneys containing potentially explosive properties, had no demolition training. He was just driving the MUP and happened to get caught in the blast. So going back to our friend Mick's point there, if and this isn't specific to access platforms, if somebody, let's take a wheel loader operator, for example. Wheel loader operator, he spent the last 20 years working in a quarry, miles from anywhere, just loads and dumps and loads and dumps. And then he's sent to work on a demolition site where potentially there's falling debris. Is he not required to be trained? Take that into consideration. And going back to the incident with John Mackay, he's obviously a trained, competent, experienced MUP operator, but no grounding, no training, no background experience in demolition. Should that not have been the first thing that happened? Should he not have gone through some sort of induction to inform him exactly what was going on down below? Leave you to talk amongst yourselves. Mick Norton says, regarding the Swedish investigation, ironically, the best guidance in Europe is the CPA documentation on the topic. Here's one of the things that I find interesting with this. And I was using that Swedish accident. Let me put me back on full screen. I was using the Swedish accident to illustrate a point because of Didcot and because of Redcar and everything else. But here's the thing. I got that from... I think I got it from IPAF, the International Powered Access Federation news feed or whatever it might be. So here's how the access platform industry works. They have a database. So if there's an accident or an incident or a fatality, details of that accident is fed into that IPAF database. And they then, for one thing, they then blast out to all their members literally around the world to say, this has been an issue either with this type of application, this type of operation, this type of machine, these sort of conditions, whatever it might be. But they make them aware. But they don't stop there. They take that information in and they then use that to inform and drive their training going forward. We've had Didcot, 4 people killed. We've had Redcar, 2 people killed. We've had a multitude of other fatal accidents as well. And because of the way that the UK investigating authorities work, regardless of who's got primacy, ultimately, I guess it comes back to the HSE. With all of that being said, we've not had that information into the NFDC, the IDE, to me even, so that it can be disseminated across the rest of the industry. We've got such a huge gap in our understanding and our knowledge, and we're allowing that to happen. And I know I keep making this point, and the more I make it, the more it bugs me, to be perfectly honest with you. My personal belief is that over Didcot, over Redcar, and other accidents as well, I believe that the health and safety executive has really, really, really failed the demolition industry. And yet, several times a year, the NFDC, the IDE, sit down, break bread with the HSE. Why are they not being taken to task? Why are they not using what little influence they still have to be taken to task and to be told the right way of doing things, to pull their finger out? Why are they not doing that? Will you not be visiting the UK Construction Week at the NEC in Birmingham in October? Possibly. Possibly. I to be honest, UK Construction Week, not really my cup of tea, if I'm being completely honest, but I'll see who's going and see if it's worthwhile. Let's have a look. Regarding the accident reporting, the UK safequarry.com is second to none. Information on the accident, possible lessons learned are disseminated immediately, often the same day. Yeah. And here's another point, and I will single him out because he's very good at it. Adrian McLean at Armac Demolition. If he is made aware of an incident or an accident, not just on one of his sites, but elsewhere as well, he will take it upon himself to send that to, send it far and wide. This is a thing that's happened. This is the measures you need to take to avoid that happening. Where are the trade bodies? Where is the HSE? Where is Thames Valley Police? What are they actually doing? So let's go back to I'm just going to tidy my screen up, get rid of that, bring that back. So we left it with Ken Hatcher guessing it was an Evelyn Barford, and with Chris Ford guessing it was an R100. It's neither of those things. However, we have somebody they're not right. Oh, actually, let's do this one. Hitachi ENH 100. It's not one of those either. However, Gary Muirhead is very much on the right track. He says it's a SANY SKT90S. It's not, but you're in the ballpark. And that's what you've got to work with. Anybody else got any thoughts on that? Please let us know. Let's have a bit of one of these. I feel like I'm the victim of some sort of weird prank going on. Do you remember last week we had an Eddie Grant and a Nicolas Cage watching? just looked at my LinkedIn profile, and there is somebody called Bill Bailey. I'm pretty sure, well, he's from Boss Demolition. Bill Bailey from Boss Demolition is watching. Probably with the weird hair and the comedy, and I don't suppose it's that Bill Bailey at all. But yeah, we've got Eddie Grant, Nicolas Cage, and Bill Bailey. What a weird mix that is. Let's talk attachments. I don't know about you lot, but whenever I think about quick couplers and oil quicks and stuff, I generally tend to think about excavators. Turns out they have other applications too. Yeah, I'm with Steve Williamson on that. Great couple of that, he says. Yeah, I totally agree. And how often do you see a side tip bucket? How often do you see one of those? Speaking of Steve, he's had a stab at our mystery machine, which currently looks like that. He says, is it the SRT 95C from Sani? It's not. But again, right ballpark. Dan Cullen is going for exactly this. What is he going for? The 95C? No, it's not one of those. Gary, SRT 55D. It's not. Dan as well, SRT 95C. None of those things. I can tell Chris Ford it is definitely not a leap air at all. Jim Turner, going back to that AMI attachments. Film says that's what truly makes a difference, not having to leave the cab. You're dead right. You're dead right. Another guess on our mystery machine, the SKT 90E2 from Sani. It is not. You're getting closer and closer. What I will tell you is all of those that have said Sani, you've got the right make. You need to think a bit bigger. I'm going to take that away because we do need to play a smidgen of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Excuse me. Mick Norton says, who knew that a certain Mr. Dropped patented the first 4-in-1 bucket? Well, I didn't, but you quite clearly did. Did he really? Did he? I think there was a Mr. Dropped. Big name back in the day. Dan Cullen says, seen one of those buckets on a mini loader. I've seen them. In actual fact, I've got one tucked away for use over on Instagram in the not too distant future. Don't see many of them. Let's have a look. Steve is going for the SET 240S. Oh man alive, you're getting awfully close now. I tell you what, let me take that away and make sure I can afford to give you another one. I can. There you are. That's where we are. Getting closer and closer to the right answer. Chris Ford, still too small. Sani SRT 95C, way too small. Go up the range a bit. That's where you will find the gold. Let me take that away. And take that away as well. Where are we? Yeah, autonomy. We kind of love us a bit of autonomy. Like talking about it. Not entirely sure we're keen on the outcome, but let's come back in a moment. Talk about machine autonomy with Volvo.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
We are very close to the winner on the mystery machine, which is why people are playing fastest fingers first. Steve says the Sani SET 150S. It's not. Gary says the Sani XDR 100. It's not one of those, and it's not the SET 100. It's a little bit bigger than that. So yes, machine autonomy. Those of you that tuned into our Volvo special the other night will know that, among other things, Volvo is leading the charge on machine autonomy. And here's a bit of an update on exactly how they're going about it.
My name is Jacob Eduwama, and I am the manager of the Transport Mission Group within Verification and Validation. How does our autonomous testing process work? My team tests the entire autonomous transport solution on our local sites, as well as customer sites, in the real world, giving real-world feedback to the development teams and other verification and validation teams. We start the most basic level of testing, vehicle roll call, all the way to the final ATS, transport mission, which is where our name comes from. We send a mission to the ATS to transport goods, and that is the ultimate test of the system. Testing of autonomous vehicles has unique challenges. With manually operated vehicles, the operator is testing with direct control. In autonomous vehicle testing, it is the system that is directly controlling the vehicle, and the operator is giving commands to the system. We have a unique challenge of verifying and validating a system without being present in the vehicle or near the vehicle while it's operating autonomously, which is where the Autonomous Operating Zone, or AOZ, comes in. This is a closed-off area that we designed within our proving grounds and customer sites, where no one is allowed during autonomous testing. We secure the area with barriers, gates, fences, and often camera surveillance. We even have routines in place to make sure that the AOZ is always secured, and we are ready to stop the system if anyone enters the AOZ.
Yeah, I realised that was related to transport, and I did that on purpose. If you remember rightly, when we were talking to Bill Law and to Anna as well, they were saying how much they borrow from other parts of the Volvo group to influence exactly what it is they're doing over in our part of the world. So yeah, I did find that very, very interesting. The thing that I found interesting most was the fact that they have issues with testing autonomous because it's hard to test autonomous without human interaction. Bizarre. So let me go back to, I'm fairly sure that Chris Ford is now making up machines. He has gone for the Sani Tonka 105S. It's not one of those. A Sani SET 150, says Dan Cullen. Nope. Sani XDE 200. Nope. XDE 400. Nope. SRT 55D. Nope. XDE 170. Nope. XDR 170. Nope. So, just to be absolutely clear here, I'm just going to check something. Yes, I can. I can show you a little bit more. There you are. That's pretty much all I can show you without giving the game completely away. We have, let me see when I can see, because I've got something in my eye. Bear with me. We've got one film left, which is 1 minute and 11 seconds long. So I reckon you've got about 2 minutes to guess the name of that machine, name and number of that machine, or I get 3 points on the board. Fastest fingers, people. Yeah, if you're watching last week, you may recall that we showed you one of the prototype machines that Sunward had on its stand. Well, it wasn't just prototypes. They actually had some live and available equipment as well, including a new one, this one.
I'm Hans Driessen. I work for Sunward Europe, and I'm the product manager. Hello everybody, we're on Hillhead 2024 and I would like to present to you SWTL 4538. The machine is getting very popular in the UK and we have the opportunity to have one in front of us because mostly they are directly delivered to the customers. So we have the opportunity to have one on the fair this time. So popular is the machine. The ideal application for this in the UK is especially the solar fields, which they are integrating into the landscape everywhere. It's very agile, it's compact, it's very strong. The machine weight is 4.4 ton and it has a lifting capacity of 1.2 ton. We offer it with different attachments, and in this case it is equipped with a 4-in-1 bucket.
Going to say a quick goodbye to Dan Cullen, who is just leaving us. Got to go. Have a great day, guys. You too, Dan. Thank you very much indeed for being here. What have we got? We've got Steve saying the SRT 95C. It is not. We've also got Gary Muirhead saying the Sany SET 150. It's not. It's none of those things, which means for only the second time, I think, yes, for only the second time in this league table season, I win. There we are. I can tell you that right there is a Sany SET 320S. If you look very, very closely, you can actually see it written on the side. So yes, 3 points to me. Doesn't make a huge amount of difference to the standings at the top because Steve Williamson is absolutely running away with things at the moment. What has he got? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 wins under his belt. So he's on 12 points. I'm on a measly 6. But he's doing very well, very well. And he says a little patronizingly, well done, Mark. He also says, big one, that from Sany. Yeah, I to be honest, I mean, whether we'll ever actually see any of those this side of the world, I very much doubt it. But you never know. But yes, 3 points to me. I will be publishing the league table in the not too distant future. I need to fill it in, basically. I'm keeping it all on paper in front of me at the moment, but I will be doing that in the fullness of time. The other thing, for those of you that weren't here on Saturday, a very quick update. I have ordered some balls. Now I'll fill in the gaps. Okay, so we were talking about, obviously, the European Championships, where Spain have emerged victorious and England did England. I was talking about the idea of doing an excavator World Championships in which you are the arbiters, you are the judges. So the plan is, and I've come up with a list of 32 excavator manufacturers, past and present, 32 excavator manufacturers. We're going to put the number of each of those 32 on a ball. We're going to do a draw, much the same as they do in football. So, team number 1, which might be Caterpillar, will play team number 15, who might be Kobelco. That'll be the first round. We will do that daily, and it will be down to you to vote on which manufacturer wins. The way we're going to do it, and I've said this on Saturday, but I'll reiterate it now for everybody else. The way we're going to judge it is, if you had 100 grand to spend and you had to choose between a Cat and a Kobelco excavator in this instance, which would you choose? If we end up with a tie, if we end up with an equal number of votes for each machine, I am basically penalties. So I'll flip a coin or show my bias, and I will be the person that decides. But the idea is, if we start with 32, that will go into 16, which will go into 8, into 4, and then the grand final will be one team against another. So we will be pitting the likes of, the modern likes of Senebogen against Hymac, for example. Which would you vote for? Which would you vote for? So that's something we're going to be doing in the very near future. Now, I'm expecting to receive delivery of those balls in about 2 weeks' time, I think, maybe just slightly less than that, maybe 10 days' time. Soon as I've done that, what we'll do the draw for the rounds to figure out who plays who, and then we will actually start it on the 1st of August, because obviously things are going to tail off a little bit because people are going to be on holiday. So we'll do that through the summer, and it will temporarily replace the question of the day. Question of the day is not going away. Gary Muirhead still has lots and lots of questions to ask. I'm absolutely sure of that. But it's not going to replace it, but we're just going to take a bit of a step back while it's quiet, and do something a little bit different. So yeah, we're going to do the Excavator World Championships to start with, and then who knows, as I will have a bunch of numbered balls about my person at that point, who knows, maybe we'll do mini excavators after that, maybe we'll do wheel loaders after that, maybe we'll do, I said this on Saturday, I'd love to do dozers, but I can only think of half a dozen actual dozer manufacturers off the top of my head. Maybe there's more. If I dig into the past, maybe we'll come up with a few more. So yes, that's what we're doing. So if you want to take part in that, just keep watching the show, because we will be doing that in the very near future. As I say, next 10 days or so, we will actually do the draw of the balls, all 32 of them. We'll allocate those. We'll put them into a league table. So, and I'll put it up on the screen so you can see, you can follow along. You can follow the fixtures as we work our way down to the final. And I've been trying to do the maths. So there will be 16 matches, followed by 8 matches, which is 24, followed by 4, 28, followed by 2, 30 days. So pretty much the whole of August, we will be doing the World Championships of Excavators. Something we have planned. So Dan Cullen says that was going to be my next guest too. Dan. If we could do these competitions in retrospect, I think Dan would be about 100 points ahead of everybody else, but we can't, so he's not. Right, everybody, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, do please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I shall be back with the Craic immediately after this key word from our show sponsor. Right, let's get some music playing in the background, shall we? Let's have a bit of that one. Yeah, let's take that right the way down. Just about hear it. Morning, everyone. How are we all doing? How are we all doing? I will go through the chat in just a moment. I'll go right the way back to the beginning. But I've spent a lot of the weekend this weekend. I didn't feel particularly well yesterday, so spent a lot of time sat on the sofa with a laptop on my lap, looking at all things live streaming and stuff. And one of the things that even though this is only my third ever stream over to Twitch, one of the things that I've been made aware of is the fact that my streams are not long enough. Not long enough. Would you believe it? So I have a few plans that I'm kicking around to make them longer. And I'm not entirely sure of the best way to do it. Now, there's a bit of me that wants to start maybe 15 minutes early and go through the news of the day, which kind of interrupts the flow of this established show, which I'm not particularly keen on. Failing that, I could push the news of the day to the back end of the show and do that. Again, I'm going to be into uncharted territory, because I know a lot of you guys, you watch for the first bit and then you have to get back to your day jobs. So I'm not entirely sure of the best way to do that. But one of the other things that came out of all that I've been watching over the weekend is the need to do basically more. I'm trying to do more stuff that can be chopped up and used elsewhere, because obviously, you know, we have our core audience who are here pretty much every day, almost without fail. But our biggest audience is over on Instagram after the show has ended, and on YouTube after the show has ended, and so on down the line. And part of what I'm trying to do is to make sure that there's bits of this show that I can pull out and put onto Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts and that kind of thing, which is why I did the bit about the England team and the comparisons to the UK construction industry today. So I'm going to chop that out, chop it up, make it look sexy and everything else. But I'm also going to be doing more news type stuff. So, for example, I had an email while the show was going on this morning to say, let me see, Charles Henshaw and Sons, one of Scotland's leading facade specialists, has fallen into administration. And under normal circumstances, I wouldn't cover that here, because we don't really do facade type stuff. But if that could get us a few more viewers over here, then maybe I should be doing that. So I'm going to take some time out to actually go away and do things like that. Maybe they'll be part of the show. Maybe they'll be part of something else. I don't know. But that's where we're headed, just to keep you all posted. And as I say, we're also going to be doing our World Championship of Excavators beginning of August, I would say. So back to the chat. Gary Muirhead was here at 9:57 a.m. because he's got the day off. A lucky man that he is. And that was his first guess, long before he'd even seen the machines. Not even close. Yeah. Let's have a look at there you are. I've never heard of this. Glasgow Fair Monday holiday in the house watching the show. Well, I'm glad you're at home. But I don't know what the Glasgow Fair Monday is. Is that something? I guess that's the Scots equivalent of a bank holiday down this part of the world. I assume that's the case. I don't actually know the answer to that. And our music appears to have stopped. Let's go for that. All right, that should play in the background. We'll come to the question of the day in just a moment. And yes, watched the football last night. The funny thing was, I basically was cured of my love of England in the South Africa World Cup, however long ago that was, maybe 16 odd years ago, something like that. Because, we were told this was a golden generation, Wayne Rooney and all, and how we were going to take the tournament by storm. We did nothing of the sort. Turns out we were overpaid, overhyped, and underprepared. And as a result, I don't really follow England anymore. I'm a proud Englishman, no problem with that. But I don't actually think that the England team represents the best of football. So, cut a long story short, I am a football fan first. I'm a West Ham fan first. I'm a football fan second. So as far as I'm concerned, the right team won. From literally 15 minutes into their first game, Spain were a country mile ahead of every other team in the competition, and they deserved to win, and they did. So, congratulations to the Spanish, commiserations to the English. Maybe time to think about having a manager that doesn't believe that a 0-0 draw is a stunning victory. Just a thought. Where is our question of the day? Jim Turner. I said in the intro, talking about Donald Trump being shot at, and could have been obviously a whole lot worse. Good morning to Atomic Demolishers over on Instagram, by the way. Could have been a whole lot worse. Totally agree. And I questioned why we're tribal. It's because we're tribal, says Jim Turner. Like it or not, we're all people that have a preference of people we are closer to, and that makes us tribal. I get that. I was throwing that out there. The one thing that I would say is, I've already said, I'm a bit of a lefty-leaning liberal. I am a West Ham fan, and I'm an Ultravox fan, and I'm non-religious. At no point in my understated tribalism have I ever been tempted to go and inflict my views or any form of violence on a separate tribe. As an Ultravox fan, you never pour out the Hammersmith Odeon and think, where are those Duran fans? Let's go and give them a bloody good hiding. Don't understand it. And surely at this point, never mind tribalism, but surely at this point we have got to realise that having been at odds with our European, our global neighbours for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and it's got us nowhere. When you look at what's going on in Ukraine, when you look at what's going on in Gaza, is that good? Of course it's not. And the whole idea of, I don't like you because you're from somewhere else, just does my nutting. Now, Lindo Diano. What does that mean in English? So, I thought this was some sort of reference to football. It is not. So, somebody called Eldan Yarius, I think that's the name, has just said, good day. And what are they saying? Is that Portuguese? No, it's Spanish. See, my luck. Well, good day to you, and congratulations on the football. Congratulations on the Wimbledon as well. I'm not entirely sure how you say congratulations in Spanish, but whatever it is, to you. See, this is how it's supposed to work. there's a Spaniard in our midst who could be smug and unpleasant about the fact that they beat us at the football. No, they've just wished me a good day, and I'm wishing them one back. That's how the world should work. Ken Hatcher is here, and he's got the weather. Yeah, I got up first thing this morning because I wasn't particularly well prepared for this morning because I was ill yesterday. Got up this morning, lovely and sunny out. Pouring with rain now. Monster Jam apparently is coming to Glasgow. Already signed up for tickets. I must admit I'm slightly annoyed because we did report on the Digatron thing back when JCB first announced that they were going to do it, and we showed you the actual vehicle itself. And bearing in mind, as a West Ham fan, I'm not a stranger to the London Stadium. Completely passed me by, as did, funnily enough, I don't know if you're aware, but there's some sort of Formula One thing going on in London, and Komatsu are part of it with their race car sponsorship. There is a thing in Piccadilly Circus in London that's going on. Completely oblivious to that as well. I need to keep my ear closer to the ground. Question of the day was this: what is the nicest compliment you've ever been paid? As I say, mine was just a nod of approval from somebody far hipper and far groovier than I am. So greatly appreciated that. Jim Turner says, what compliments? Fair point. Maybe that should be our thing. Maybe that should be our belated New Year's resolution. Just to say something nice to people. Just, I don't know if I may have mentioned this before. An old mate of mine, sadly no longer with us, a guy called Larry Davis, used to be the managing director of MBW up in Bolton Way. Larry was a law unto himself. He really was, and an absolute force of nature. But he had a couple of bouts of cancer, and the second one got him basically. But he was in hospital after the first bout, and I mean, he was Jewish, and he had actually sent me. Is it a yarmulke? The skull cap. He'd actually sent me one of those so that I could attend his funeral and be in part. As it turns out, he made a recovery. But I went to visit him in hospital. When he was, we all thought, at death's door. And I said to him, is there anything you'd change? Is there anything you'd do differently? Because he had been something of a rebel, old Larry. And he said, yeah. He said, I wish I'd told more women that they were beautiful. Not because I want to try and chat them up, but just because they are. Actually lived with me for quite some time. Never got around to doing it. I actually thought for a while I would take that baton and run with it. And Nicolas Cage is back with us, by the way, on Instagram. But yeah, never done that. And the number of times you see somebody and just think, that's a nice jumper you're wearing. Should I mention it, or do I come across as an arsehole? I'll probably come across as an arsehole. I'll keep myself to myself. Maybe we should be saying that out loud. There's Mick Norton enjoying my article. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, there is certainly a disparity between the way that the Swedes investigate accidents and the way that we do, or don't, as the case may be. You kind of got a question at this point. 8.5 years. Is there an investigation actually going on? Or are they hoping that enough people will just die and forget about it? I do wonder. Let's have a look. Who do we have through here? Callum McIntosh on the same subject. Yeah, I enjoyed that too on Demolition Insider. 7 months versus sometime between 8 years and infinity for us. And Nordic friends are frequently streets ahead of us. It's there. And I realise this is a really, really strange comparison to draw. But, we as a nation, well, and it took a while. I'll be the first to admit it. But we took a while to look to Scandinavia and think, then the Swedes are using a tilt rotator. That seems to be good. And we took a while, but we finally decided, actually, we should be doing the same. We did exactly the same with quick couplers. You looked at the steel wrist and you thought, that seems quite smart from the Swedes. Maybe we should be doing that. Well, here's your opportunity, British government, HSE, Thames Valley Police. Look at Sweden and ask yourself, why in the name of all that's holy are you still dragging your heels 8.5 and nearly 5 years after fatal accidents in the UK, when our friends the Swedes are making you look like turnips and have the whole thing resolved in 7 months? And also, which I think is a very, very valid point, is what they do with that information. Here in the UK, here's what we do. We do a belated accident or fatal accident investigation. It's then sent to the CPS, the Criminal Prosecution Service. It's brought to a court somewhere, and the HSE present their findings. The contractor involved presents their findings, and our learned friends amongst themselves decide who was to blame, who should foot the bill, who was negligent and who wasn't, and so on down the line. In Sweden, let's cut to the chase. I'm sure there is prosecutions to be had and what have you. But the important thing is, here's a type of hoist that's been attached to the side of a building very, very poorly. Because it was attached poorly, 5 people are dead. Here's the findings. Here's the trade association. Here's the information. Now go and make your site safer. Is that not the way it's supposed to work? To my mind. We learned this morning, apparently, monster trucks, freestyle competition. I'm going to take your word for it, mainly because I don't know. On the plus side, regarding accident reporting, the UK's safequarry.com, second to none. Information on the accident, possible lessons learned are disseminated immediately, often the same day. So, demolition industry, construction industry. I give to you the Safe Quarry or safequarry.com. Why are we not doing the same thing? And there's another bit that comes up here, and here is Mick Norton says, sadly, the majority of UK employers, contractors shy away from reporting their dangerous occurrences and near misses in a clear attempt to avoid any HSE follow-up. So, we've all heard the stories of people being hurt and being paid off to keep their injuries to themselves. We'll keep this on the down low and between us. Here's a brown envelope and all that. We're aware of that. Now, obviously, that's not the way that the HSE is supposed to work, and so on down the line. But the biggest point of that, as we've said countless times on the show, is the fact that every accident, every incident, every near miss, and every fatal accident is a learning opportunity. And by covering up, or as Mick Norton puts it, shying away from reporting those occurrences and near misses, we are basically making the industry less well informed and less prepared. We are actively, let's be absolutely honest about it, we are actively keeping vital information from the wider industry to keep our bank balances sorted, but while putting other people at danger. How does that sit with you? Yeah. Loads and loads of guesses on our football. Spain had it figured out and the goals were precise. England just whacked the ball and just hoped for the best. So they were lucky to get that one goal, really. Yeah, indeed. I'd happily support the England team. It's the shite before they win a game. Stop boasting because you look ridiculous when you lose. Yeah, all of that, football's coming home. How are we clinging to that? I mean, I realised the first time, and I've sung it on the terraces, Euro 96, I think it was. I sang it on the terraces when England, funnily enough, beat Spain to make it to the semis, I think. But we haven't won anything in 58 years, and I'm sorry if there's any Geordies watching, but I'm going to use you as an example here. There is a belief among Newcastle fans that they have some sort of divine right to be one of the big teams in the country. They haven't won anything in 60 plus years. They've won absolutely sodom. They've won nothing. They've had some fantastic players over the years, Alan Shearer springing immediately to mind, but they've won nothing. And yet the Geordie fans seem to believe that they should be given some sort of special dispensation and make them among the likes of Liverpool and Man United and Man City and stuff. That's not the truth. Not the truth at all. England are the same. We haven't won a damn thing in 58 years. And yet we turn up, oh yes, we're favourites. Look at the golden generation. Look at all the talent we have at our disposal. Nobody can hold a light to us. We're definitely the tournament favourites. It's coming home. No, it's not. No, it's not. And then I say good morning to Frank Burby, who's just joined us. For those of you that don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, Frank is Mr. DeHarco. Morning, Frank. Good of you to join us. Bonjour. I think, maybe, I don't know. Good morning. I'll go with that instead. Peter McKenna, well, speaking of foreign languages, Peter McKenna has arrived, and for some reason, he's decided to go Spanish as well. I wonder what prompted him to do that. Yes, indeed. Mick Norton says, a company once called me a Kuwaiti tanker, whatever that is. I'll tell you offline. But I think you figured it out. Mick Norton, why do Norse people communicate so well? Because it's in Norse code. Mick, go and take a long, hard look at yourself in the mirror. You've let yourself down badly with that one. Did you get that out of a cracker? Did you? I think you probably did. People, despite what I said about not streaming for long enough, I think that will probably do us for today. That's an hour of anyone's time. I'll be back again tomorrow for more of the same. I am going to be doing... I've been a bit inspired by Nigel Williams. If anybody's ever listened to Nigel Williams' podcast, you'll know that he just turns on the recorder and just chats. I'm going to do one of those myself today. I'm going to make myself a cup of tea first, so expect plenty of slurping in the background, but I'm going to go and do one of those myself. And the subject matter basically is about, we've spent a lot of time talking about mental health, and as a former sufferer myself, I'm more than happy to continue shouting that from the rooftops and all of that stuff. I wonder, however, whether we are, or whether we've lost focus on physical health. And that thing that we always say about mental health, you can't see what's going on in somebody's head, and it's true. Nobody that I was speaking to when I was having my funny half hour would have realised there was anything going on. But what about all those people that you work with that are struggling with some sort of physical condition, be it, I don't know, off the top of my head, lung disease, heart disease, liver disease, kidney disease, chronic pain, back pain, leg pain, knee pain. They might need a knee replacement, might need a hip replacement, but because of the way that the construction industry works and because of the terms of their employment, they don't get paid if they don't turn up for work, and therefore they turn up for work when perhaps they shouldn't, when perhaps they are suffering from pain, when perhaps they are suffering from some kind of diagnosed or even undiagnosed disease that they should be addressing. And it all plays into this idea of, and I mentioned this on Saturday, it all plays into this perfect storm. And I've used that term before to talk about mental health. So, if you're working away from home and you're worried about money and you're worried about the family, you're worried about your wife and all that kind of thing, that all plays onto mental health issues. It also has the potential to play into physical health issues. And if you don't get home for more than a day or a day and a bit each week, you've probably not got time to go and see your GP to keep an eye on just your physical well-being. You're probably not getting to your dentist, and if you're not getting to your GP, bad enough if you're feeling a bit crook or you've got some sort of diagnosed condition, but if you're not seeing your GP, who's going to pick up the early signs of issues that you might be getting, the early signs of heart disease and that kind of thing? I'm going to have a chat about that a bit later on. And apparently that is congratulations. I don't know why he's congratulating me, but I'll take it. Thank you, Peter. Felicidades. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. It's the best I've got. People, go have a fantastic day, and felicidades to everyone. For no apparent reason. Go have a fantastic day. Really appreciate your company. And yes, we're looking forward to the Excavator World Championships, which will be coming this way very, very soon. So look out for that. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day. I'll see you on the morrow. All the best.